Good evening and welcome to Whiskey Wednesday. Tonight, joining me yet once again is the ninja Dr. Jason Pittman. Tonight, we're going to talk a little bit about when you have a setback. Is it truly a setback or is it a path forward? I'm your host, Dr. Dan Ford, and this is Echelon Orchid.
Guess who's back?
Ninja, what's going on, my friend? Got another bullet going on. For all those who see it, stopped another one. What are you drinking tonight? Ah, dragon's milk. I'm all about the dragon. Yeah. So I can never remember, and you probably know better than this than I. So in Scotland, do they pronounce the W as a V or a W? Because I'm drinking, I don't know if I always want to say Dalwhinnie, but I feel like it should be Dalvinnie. What fucking use are you to me right now? Yeah, and I feel like because it's Highland, that it would be. I don't know. Well, I mean, maybe someone at some point in time will actually let us know if we get to that point where we reach some people that are from Scotland and understand this stuff because I have no idea. But no, you just know more about it than what I would know when I just go. I always just feel like because when I see that in that WH, I want to say it's Delvini, but I look. This is why I always ask people like, all right, how do you pronounce your name? And I ask them like RB. I'm like, all right, I just can't say his name properly. But he never would correct me, so I'm like, all right. And his sister would go, well, you're saying it wrong. Well, he doesn't correct me, and it's his name. I'm like, forget it. It's RB. You're now RB from here on out because I can pronounce that. Yeah. No, I get it. I get it. So, our topic for today, and I'll go briefly. We had our first event yesterday, and I've had to cancel a couple of shows because I mean, look, and you got to see part of like how long this takes. I mean, it's it's a labor of love. It's not that it's necessarily truly intense um, until it's time to become intense, right? There's just a part of it. There's a short window that all right, you got to pay attention. But we don't know when those windows are going to be, and as we do this more often, we'll know when those windows of intensity needs to occur. So there was many hours, and what we had for our first event with these different um, bartenders and people in the food drink service industry. Um, we had white rum, a slightly aged rum, which is a dark rum. Like dark rum, for those who don't know, which is much different than spice rum. There's a little bit of a debate. Like it's like spice rum, is it even rum? I don't know where I fall into that. I'm not a big rum drinker, but if I was going to drink rum, it would be dark rum. because it's been aged. And there's some people that do a dark rum like a bourbon. Like they only age that in a brand new oak charred barrel and they make it sit for 2 years. That it's very hard to distinguish, to me at least, that and a bourbon. It's I can tell you which one's cheaper to make, but taste wise, and I just wonder. I don't know at a certain point in time whether or not a rum, if it was aged 15 years, if it would hold the same quality as a bourbon at 15 years. And there are many people out there that say that a bourbon should never be aged longer than 10 years. That there's no real benefit to a bourbon if it was done. Unlike a scotch, and that's because of the temperature and the grain, right? The fact that they're using all barley and that it does something different. So I don't know. I don't know enough yet to distinguish, but what I can say is it's very difficult for me to distinguish from like a 12-year Weller and their next one up, which I think is a 16. Um, I don't remember, but like a even a 10-year Weller and a 12-year Weller, which I do know exists. Hard for me to distinguish between the two. Only thing I know for sure is that a 10-year Weller is like $80 and a 12-year is like $150. So I don't know. I've never seen anyone age rum for that long. So I couldn't tell you. But anyway, dark rum. We had a gin. The gin was a big hit amongst the people that were there. They were not expecting that. Um, and it turned out a little bit pink because of the strawberry that's in it, which was great. And so we were kind of like, all right, maybe, and you can only get a hint of the strawberry. Which was the key. And for those that don't know, like, hey, look, for gin, you just need one juniper berry in the process, and it's gin. Like that's the legal definition. One juniper berry, bam, done. We had a little bit more than one juniper berry. Um, and we went through that process, which was good. The cardamom rose vodka was a big hit amongst them. They really liked the smell. Um, yeah, it was. It was. We had that turning out a little bit purple in the beginning, but because we were doing a cold maceration and with the filtration of this in order to get it there, it went from a nice purple to like brown. Added too much cardamom. So, like, all right, how do we want to do this? Maybe there's ways to do this with we could have done we could have added all that cardamom in the beginning and then charcoal filtered it. It would have got rid of all the color and then add the rose. So I mean we're playing with it. So anyway, got that. The whiskeys were big. They both, and which I'm really surprised that with women liking the whiskey, but it just is a testament to the who's doing the cut. So, getting back to that setback, you step forward, I was expecting more people. I was a little disappointed. But then I went, well, wait a minute. These people don't owe me anything. They don't know me at all. They showed up, they did the event. I was really paying attention to body language as they did things, and there was nothing negative. And in some cases, it was extremely positive body reactions. And I'm like, all right, I think we're on to something here. But it took me a moment of actually, I didn't think that in the very beginning. It took, well, let's see, today, being quite frank, it was during my one of my meditation sessions. I was reflecting based upon all of it because I was a little bit down. I'm like, wait a minute, this wasn't good, but and it really kind of I'm like, well, hold on. All these things came like, no, this wasn't bad. It may not be what you expected, but it was information you didn't have before. That's positive. So I wonder how many times people first off think negative, but then they continue to dwell on that negativity rather than like I didn't seek a positive element. And I gotta and there's a lot of people out there that continue to like shit all over Jordan Peterson and I think that's very, very foolish on their part because when they really break down, Jordan, he's a clinical psychologist and he's very well published, very, very good at his art. And there's some things you can say, hey, why are you talking about climate change as a clinical psychologist? Fair enough. That's an opinion of a human to human, right? Fine. He's not skilled in that particular area. Fine. You want to make, but not when it comes to the human psyche as to how we do things as people. And he's very clear on meditation is a great way to determine your path forward, especially with things that you're not necessarily sure on. But be careful because you're not, if when you're true to yourself, you're not going to like what's being said in the mirror because your body's going to react. And I think it's, and as he says, but if you take your own advice in those moments of meditation, you can become a better person.
It's interesting you bring that up, and it's a lot of fun. So I'm going backwards because, of course, right now the social zeitgeist is super attack that Jordan Peterson episode, rip it apart, decry them as disinformation artists. What people don't understand, and so I'll talk more to your point about Jordan, is he's always been very clearly. So I think he's always been very transparent about who he is and how he operates, right? And he's also talked numerous times about his participation in the climate movement.
Right.
It's not like he's not material. What people lose track of, I think, willfully, is that he's talking about that in the role which he was asked to do, which is as a fucking clinical psychologist. And so he's not speaking as a climatologist.
Right.
Speaking as a psychologist, analyzing what it is to interact with climate.
Well, I mean, he attacks the data, right? Well, not the data. He attacks their methodology.
No, I actually disagree. I think if you really, I think if you what he's saying, is this is my analysis as a psychologist of what it is to experience the data associated with climate.
Say that again.
Right? Well, okay, here's the simple way to say it. Because we have interactions at a very deep level in terms of doing science. And as somebody that advises a lot of people on how to do science, the hard part of being able to do that, a lot of people be successful, is to put yourself in their shoes as they are doing science. Jordan's a psychologist, and so he's telling you about his experience as a psychologist, analyzing the psychology of a climate scientist. He's not a climate scientist. He's not claiming to be a climate scientist. He's claiming to be a psychologist, analyzing the psychology of a climate scientist, doing climate science.
Got it.
Twisted. Just like they get Joe Rogan. Listen. You heard me say this. I'll say it publicly right now. I've watched Joe Rogan podcast since he was in his fucking office in his house, like episode 10. I don't watch a lot now because I don't have Spotify as a natural platform. But I understand what Joe Rogan is about. He's a dude having a conversation with people about interesting shit. I don't think he's the or the avatar that is coming down. He's having a conversation with people that I get to fucking get fly on the wall for. And I think it's convenient to the cultural zeitgeist to attack that and act as if it's divine decree and rail against it rather than deal with the fact that these are just people expressing their personal opinions. and you don't have to agree with it, but just turn it off. Anyway, so back to setbacks, because there's a meta to this, right? Just turn it off.
Right.
Anyway, so back to setbacks.
No, I can hear you fine. All right, good. So I had a couple of people saying, can't hear you. Well, I can hear you just fine on YouTube. So I forgot to, dude, you talk about setbacks. Like eventually I'm going to have the studio like set up and it's like, I'm just going to show up and just like sit down. And the worst case scenario is like, I have like you here for a week and then I'm just adding you to the mix. But
This is actually a conversation because I saw what we were going to talk about tonight. This is a conversation I actually because it's true. And the idea that there's moments in which you can step off to survey the horizon to see what's going on, choose like threat space, so that you can find it and react to it, as opposed to being online and tunneling on an objective and losing sight of what's on your periphery or your flanks, right? I'd be really interested in this development idea. My understanding is that there are times in which you need to learn how to step offline so you can maintain that awareness that's good. And I think when we feel like there's a setback, what that is, it's the universe in an energy sense telling us you didn't step back, you should have, so I'm going to force you to. And then to your point, there's many reasons around that, which is a classic literature defense, right? Either culture, social context is plotting your path to greatness or plotting your path to hell. And what really determines that is your reaction to the consequence.
okay, I'm gonna go back for a moment because I haven't listened to all of Jordan and Joe's show here recently. But there's a piece in there in terms of the clip that I heard, which is why I'm going to go and say where he was really attacking the framework, because he essentially said, and I'm going to paraphrase, all of you environmental and climate scientists are saying that everything is and made up of whether or not there's climate change. And so if you're saying that everything is made up with it, and you're then saying, I'm only going to take these particular attributes and that's not everything, then how could those particular attributes be the only ones that are significant to affecting climate and your modeling? Now I'm kind of paraphrasing with that, but he attacked, to me, the framework in that you said everything matters, but you didn't include everything. And then why is it only these specific variables the only ones that matter when all of your presuppositions, your favorite word there, aren't there? Like how? So I get. I mean, that's the part where I mean, and again, we all that have truly embraced the process of having a terminal degree understand those pieces. You don't have to be a climate scientist to know whether or not the study was valid or not. And I think that's where Jordan was going. Like, wait a minute, you've said this, you've said A, you did B, B does not equal A. Why is it that I should then have the same conclusions you have? And so that's where I was going with the framework. Now, what am I missing something there?
Listen, I'm not a clinical psychologist, I'm not a psychologist.
No. Just that framework aspect of
No, hear me out.
yeah.
I'm not a climate scientist. I'm not a hard scientist. At best, I'm a computational theorist. At best.
Yeah, but you're not a pseudoscientist.
That's true.
Right, right, yeah, yeah.
And so then I default to, well, if somebody's taking umbrage with what he's saying, I think they're being willful and purposeful in doing it.
You know, and
To understand that as a clinical psychologist, you have to take that into account for the context in which I speak. I can be shy about it, and I don't necessarily care what he says. I don't have to. But I understand why he's saying this. So this is my point about like being like a PhD advisor. In order to advise people properly in their production of science, you have to be able to put themselves in. You have to be able to put yourself in their shoes to understand why they're doing it, why they're doing it.
so it's interesting. This is what's this is society today, and I'll sum it up in a very short statement. In general, everyone's a bunch of fucking cowards. All these all these supposed experts, I'm pretty sure Jordan will have you on his show to debate. Step up, Buttercup. Where are you at? I have not seen, like, look, Jordan put himself, and I don't think he did it intentionally. I mean, I think the internet happened to him, and he's still trying to figure this thing out. But he didn't shy away. Like, he went up against some also mental giants, and as far as I can tell, and also people that heard all of his things and tried to spin it on the fly live and couldn't. They tried to take him out and they failed. Even the other mental giants, when you want to talk about the various different philosophies, I would say the worst thing that I saw in terms of Jordan was that it was a draw. I never saw him in any of the debates that have been publicized where he would have lost. He either, I felt, won or it was a draw. Like, he didn't win, he didn't lose. He was able to um, neutralize his debate partner's statements to where, well, if you came in there thinking one way, you probably didn't leave, but you also didn't think any less of what Jordan's position was. None of these people are trying to get on his podcast. And all these other people shitting all over Joe Rogan. Like, we can love or hate Joe Rogan. And I think, much like what we do, we just have a conversation. Like, this is what we, like, when you were here not too long ago, this is just what we did. We just didn't have a camera on. Like, we just, all right, let's talk. Like, it's an exchange of information. You're trying to get better at certain things. You're refining maybe some things you're trying to work out in terms of your own logical arguments. Same. I don't know that Joe's trying to work out those logical arguments. I think he's literally trying to figure out what his opinion should be, and he's got a platform that people want to come on, and he gets asked questions, and he's no dummy. I don't know any comedian that's dumb. Like, I mean, when you hear talking about it, they have to research stuff in order to try to make light of it. They have to know it, but they're well read people. It's not like a general movie star where they're just putting in front of them what their script is.
I'll say this. Setbacks, reaction to setbacks, what is a setback, or is it really just whatever, right? Um, I had a brief conversation. I talked to Joe in the airport. I don't know if you remember this. I talked to Joe Diaz
Mm-hmm.
in LA and in Baltimore. We were working in Evan's garage.
We've got to get Emily on. It would just be fun, especially if we could get her a little bit of alcohol. I yeah, I I do on occasion. I mean, I've known her for so long. I mean, it's
So positive, so wonderful.
if anyone, and I've told her, it doesn't matter what it is. She's one of those few people. I like if anyone ever hurts you, I'm just going to just remove their bloodline from the earth. I just will.
The point of like setbacks, right? Fuck, I forget what I was going to say. Um, this is what I was going to come with. I think the answer to setbacks, dealing with setbacks, series of setbacks, is there was a point, there was a period of my life where I experienced setbacks because I was too into the person's how I hate to step back in situational awareness. I was too into that, right? And so that I felt that pain and that created depression and that created a sense of, well, what the fuck? Maybe it's me, maybe it's them, whatever, right? I thought all the uses of it, which I think Jordan would agree with, put that back to that context. I think, and to Jordan's point, the way out of that is to realize that the way to assuage or neutralize setbacks is to rise up to a point where there are no setbacks possible.
I don't. I do you think that is possible
Yeah, yeah, 100%. 100%. I think
from a physical standpoint or from a mental standpoint?
oh, I'm speaking to a second.
Okay, because I was gonna be like, hey, look, what is uh, forget Elon Musk, but we'll just say Elon Musk for a moment. He has setbacks all the time because all he does is say something stupid and he loses $1 billion. It's a setback, but this is just where I go, well, okay, he lost $1 billion. That's like less than 1/100% of his current value. As soon as the SEC truly investigates all of his fraudulent activities, he'll be worth nothing. But I mean, not that I know that to be true.
And so I think when you really step back and really realize that this is a lot of conversation years, years of conversation. When you maximize the energy making yourself the best version of yourself, I think in Jordan's terminology, that is you ascending to the maximum of your abilities. And if you do that, there are no setbacks. There just aren't. It's cause and effect. You're surfing the waves.
You know, I would.
I'm telling you, I feel fucking dialed fucking maximum right now. And I feel like there are no setbacks. I've transcended the setback.
Oh, that part. I mean, I have my moments, and I won't like I did yesterday. I had a moment, and I'm like, all right, but it also took me a moment. And I hey, it's with everything. How quickly can I realize those moments, and how quickly can I find the lesson in here of which I can result in something positive.
What it is, man, the whole thing is, right? It's Tai Chi soft style.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. And I was just it's funny you would say that because we didn't really talk about this stuff in the pre-show, and so it's always enlightening as to how much in tune we are, even without having to go through that. So um, when we were talking about power, and I struggle sometimes with going in and out of this aspect, and I would tell people, if you want ultimate power, then give it all away, which is a very, very Buddhist like thing. And so I tend to believe I'm much more of a Taoist in certain philosophies, in that, there's this aspect of like dynamic balance and with the I Ching, and so with all these different pieces, and I just go I'll go my struggle. Perfectly fine giving my power, which is allowing the people that work for you the accountability to make mistakes that aren't going to hurt them or myself or the company. That but the hard part is when you have those, so to speak, newbies that are just looking to leave the nest, and they don't have the experience of knowing those things. Or for me, like I'm, as you know, and some know, I can be very intense, and it may not seem like intense, but this is where that willpower comes into play. That aspect of that chi, the internal energy, where you can just focus. I can um, and have zero issues bending people to a will just by the pressure. So if we go even with the jujitsu aspect, when we look at Hickson Gracie and his documentary Choke, that I'm just going to put pressure. And more I learn about jujitsu, which is so fascinating to me. I really, really like. If I had come amongst jujitsu at 18, um, I would probably be in a much, much different life than I am today. Much different. Um, and I was going through a particular, we'll say, positional event in terms of preparing for my blue belt, which I'm testing for on February 12th, which is supposed to take a year. And I've done it much shorter than a year, which I could have, if it wasn't for COVID, I could have probably done this a couple months ago. But I don't care about that. As I told Croyler, my teacher, I want to be able to teach the white belt curriculum. When I can teach it, then I will test. And there's a big point to that, because one, I do want to teach. I enjoy that aspect. And hey, I'm right across the street from him. So if all of a sudden someone at like 5:30 or 8 o'clock in the morning class can't make it, I want to be able to call them upon me and say, "Hey, Dan, can you take over?" Because I don't want these other people to lose a day. That might be the only day they can train that week. I don't want to be. I want him to succeed. He is such a gentleman savage, which is great. Next time you come out here, I'll take you out there, um, just so you can roll with him, so you can feel like what it's like to roll with a gorilla. So we're doing this event, right. So we're doing this event the other day, and he's like, "Hey, look, sorry, my hands are so big," and I'm like, "There's a reason why your literal logo is a gorilla and a gi. Like he's a big man. And he's so like, I mean, look, gorillas are not like slow. they're huge forces of nature. But anyway, um, dude, he's fucking so cool. Oh, I will. I will. I definitely will. I do. Yeah. Might be. I mean, he's been doing it since he was 4. And his last name is Gracie. Dude, I gotta tell you, it is. So my lessons with him now are like rolling, and there's a goal, and I love this about him. He's like, okay, because he knows what I know, and he's only basically testing me about what I know. He's like, okay, we're gonna start. I'm in guard. Um, your goal is to get to mount an armbar. You make a mistake, I'm going to reset you back to guard. Okay. And it's it's pretty intense. I mean, and we just keep going. All right. And after he resets me to guard, we stop, and he goes, "Where did you make the mistake?" "I didn't get in my hooks." "Okay, let's go again." and like boom, boom. So I mean, he's very, very much in tune with that. So then the other day we were rolling, and he was teaching me some stuff from half guard, which was, I mean, a lot of fun. He's like, "Look, I'm not going to teach you your white belt stuff. Like you're whatever. I know the white belt curriculum, but the white belt curriculum is very, very simple as a taste. And this is where I always go, like, look, there's a reason why the white belt's like a year, blue belt's 5 years. If you can make it to purple, then you're a lifer. Like I don't know anyone that's just stopped at purple belt and be like, yeah, I'm done.
No, most people stop at cocaine.
Yeah. So so we're going through different things, and the aspects of some of these passes, which is just like there's no strength involved. Like, and he's on top of me. He's 240 pounds of like muscle. Right, this is not a small guy. Well, putting pressure on me, like trying to like not let me do this stuff, and like, hey, it works. Anyway, but what I found with a lot of this is that your failure is just when you quit. Your setbacks are just when you give up. And this is why when I was speaking with you, which I think we have a pretty good premise. And I'm willing to bet for those people that aren't like trying to make a living out of jujitsu or MMA, that they're doing this as an adult for exercise and to be better. I'd be very, very interested as to where they're at in their career prior to jujitsu and now. I bet you there's so many things in there because it is so humbling in that it, at any given time, like it could be someone younger, older, appearance to be weaker. Like one of the ladies there said to me, um, I had to stop rolling with some of the new people that were coming in because they wouldn't come back. How? I mean, look, one, I go, you should never not give your all. I don't care. If their ego can't handle that they just got beat by some lady that's 120 pounds and you're 200 pounds, then you should be like, I need to keep coming back because how did this lady just fold me up like a pretzel? I need to know how to do that. I don't get that. I don't get that at all.
Well, I think from a second
Oh yeah.
right, and so
I think there's a tremendous leadership aspect here because of that aspect of being comfortable and being uncomfortable. I'm I'm always beat when I'm done rolling with anyone. Like it's pretty intense.
all right, so you had texted me about that. We can notice back and forth, and I was thinking about this ties into setbacks and growth as a consequence of setbacks, right? And I was thinking about, and it was actually back in the science school. I had we were talking about that when I was doing that really extreme endurance cycle, that's like
Hmm.
hundreds of miles, right? We had this conversation, and I said to him, what I like about it is you're going to go halfway, and at that point, are you going to fucking lay down and die, or are you going to try and get home? Those are your two options. There's no other choice. And so all you got to do is mentally prepare to go 12 miles, prepare to go 50 miles, and you get the track home, right? And so there's this idea that what I'm curious about, perhaps, is does jujitsu as an endeavor, very important sport, as an endeavor, encapsulate some idea of transcendence very specifically that other sports, as let's say a hobbyist, don't
Well, I would say yes. And I say that as I feel like I'm a pretty still at almost 47 years old, pretty damn athletic. Like I feel like I'm pretty savvy. I feel like I'm still I can see things that many other people can't. And my first class in jiu-jitsu, we got to roll, and I got to roll with this one guy that also coaches wrestling for one of the high schools here, and he was a collegiate wrestler, smaller than I am. Definitely not stronger than I am. He's smaller than I am, and I know strength wise, if I had his skill, and this is a big piece with jujitsu with anything. If your skill is equal, the person with the more strength wins. If your skill is equal, our skill was not equal, so it did not matter how much stronger than I was than him. But we got but I gassed out so quickly. And but this is even worse. I was the one you would think for the novice in the superior position because I was on top. I was in his guard, was not in a superior position. I had to work for everything because he could control my hips with his legs, and that was a huge difference. Um, well, Grandpa, you can come on anytime. I keep trying to get you to come on. We could talk about we could talk about the when you were going to become a black ace. No, he's a Vietnam. I mean, and he's definitely a pilot because he spent more time in the Pacific than he did in the air. We'll see what kind of response. Hey, Grandpa, just I don't know if I told you this, but so the last time, Grandpa got banned from like Facebook for a moment because he he's like, oh, I'll break your jaw for free. Um, yeah, he's one of my favorite people out there for sure. But he's got to be careful because he's going to get banned from Facebook again. um, so like, hey, look, well, so all right, so you may not have been athletic, but uh, just trying to break down as that persona. What things did you do to get into a leadership position then? All right. Right. Yeah. Yeah, I think there's a lot of it. So where I was going with this is that person who's never done any like how do you just become a leader if you didn't have like sports as an example? And I would go, well, if the premise, I think the my main premise in any of this is that you don't you could have been a bookworm and still become a great leader. It's what type of mental stress did you come under and were able to overcome? You could have been a chess champion and you could become a great leader because you understand the give and take. I don't know if that would be the greatest example, but I don't know that it wouldn't be. What I have found with jujitsu is that it is a great, I don't know if it's perfect, but it's certainly a great combination of physical and mental uh, combination. What's the word I'm looking for? Um, well, I got to take these two attributes. And I got to be in sync. If Yeah, if I can't have them foresee that push pull, I'm gonna do this, do this, do this, do this. Um, you're gonna be in a really bad position.
I think it mark this down, whoever's listening, right? I think the correct analogy here is to the diamond formation.
Yeah, sure.
I think somebody like Coiler or Gordon Ryan or Palmer is a diamond in this role, right? How does the diamonds form? It's a combination of
That's right there. That's how they form.
with modern technology, figure out how to replicate the natural formation of diamonds, which is hard under pressure.
Yeah, yeah.
Do it much more rapidly than a natural environment. So if you take that analog to its extreme, it is jujitsu with the maximum synthetic environment to produce diamonds. Diamonds being most proximal leaders. That's an interesting part.
Yeah, well, and that's where I want to go. I think that there's something there, and with the teachers.
I'm gonna kill my can for a second. Keep talking because I can talk and hear you. I just gotta step aside for a second.
Yeah. So, when we start talking about those pieces, and I'll give you so my last private lesson with Croyler, which I'm just one, he is very much in tune with the physical aspect of everything, and he's only recently decided to do this full time. He was I believe he was a double major undergrad in um, chemistry and biology. Like he worked for a pharmaceutical company, I believe, doing quality assurance testing. And so he decided he was going to do this full time, but he understands all of these pieces. So when we would go through a lot of these concepts, it would be to just be a little bit better. Like he would position himself in a manner that was consistent with being just better than what I currently know. And I think that's extremely. It's not like a barn door going on there, but yeah. But we would go through these things, and he would just he breaks things down in such a format that is so simple to understand. And all right, we're just going to do this, and now we're going to do this, and now we're going to do this, and now we're going to do this, and they all build upon it. And we just keep going. And so when we rolled, um, now I get in many ways from being an athlete for so many years, I can do many things equally confident with left side or right side. So we were working on this half guard aspect, and I was put in the opposite way in which I was learned, because he always goes, well, which, he always like, well, which side? I'm like, I don't care, just show me, right? Because I did. If I'm going to do this, I'm gonna eventually find myself in the opposite side. So just do it. I'll figure it out. But one of the things he complimented me on at the end of our last lesson, he goes, all right, because I asked him, like, well, what is it that you notice that I do well, and what is it that I should be looking at next? He goes, what you do well is, when you get into a certain position, what you need to do to at least remove pressure. And I think that's a huge life skill. What can you do to buy yourself time in order to be able to figure out your next step? And so I know if I'm in bottom position, which many people would think is a bad spot, and I will tell you, and many times it's a bad spot for me, because if I'm in the bottom position, someone got out of my guard and I'm now having to do scissor guard, they're in side control or something like that. I know I better get up on a side so I can get their pressure away from me, so I have time to think about my next move. In many ways in life, it's just about, what can I do to just buy some time to figure out the next step. I think too many people panic. Panic equals death. In many cases, it's death.
Yeah, I would totally agree with that. Again, this is where I think maybe on some other things, it'd be interesting to back on this idea of,
I mean, you would know if you came on. It's an open invite. I mean, no, sure.
but I think there's something to this idea that have this opportunity, because of its nature as an art, maximum embodies the crucible of universe forcing this situation away. Because I think this idea of a setback really is, as I said earlier, the first time step back and stop, which is, as I heard you explain it, what you were just talking about with, I need to stand on
Yeah, absolutely true. And so this is, so many people, and I've done this. So I mean, the question I ask, like, a bunch of the people that I roll with right now, and hey, look, by no stretch of the imagination am I any, like, if I'm rolling with another white belt, I do pretty well. If I'm rolling with a colored belt, I get folded up like a pretzel. They've been doing it. Like, I get it. My ego's not hurt. What I go is, all right, what did I do wrong? I ask them, what did I do wrong? Let's do that again. Let's go to that same spot, and what should I do to defend? And so many of them are, actually, not so many, 100% of the people there have said, this is what you should have done. Okay, let's do it again. Perfect. Let's do it again. Do it again. Do it again. So I know, all right, this is what I got to do. But the question I ask them, and it may not be very intuitive to many people, but I ask them this: how does my body respond to what you're doing? Does it feel tense? And in the beginning, it was, you feel like you're like, ah, and now it's, no, like, you're feeling pretty loose. You're like, you're rolling. You're doing this. It's pretty intuitive. You're doing this. Like, your body. Like, he's like, and they were always like, well, I can tell when you're now lost. That's fine. I'm good with that. Because, all right, you're right. I am, but I don't feel tense. I'm not muscling things. My biggest issue today is I hold onto their gi when I'm still in a bad position. So as we roll and I'm still holding onto the gi, they know it, they can feel it, and they can put me in an even worse position. So I spent a lot of time at the chiropractor last week. I was in some cryo, with Nicole that you met. I was there. I was like, ah. And so the one guy that they call Nasty, he's been doing it for 18 months. He teaches in the kids class a lot of times. Nice young man. And I'm like, oh, like the amount of times my hand got like caught in his gi because I would grab on and I would roll and I'm like, all right, that's done. I'm like, I'm done. I'm out. I'm done. Packing up, going home, right? Because I'm like, I'm not gonna. Once I get a little bit hurt, I'm like, I'm not in. Big difference between being hurt and injured. I'm not competing. I'm not trying to make $1 million. If I get hurt, I'm done. I'm done for the day. I don't have any ego in that. Right? You're not going to guilt me into keep going. 40. I'm going to be 47 years old this year. I am not going to get to the point where I can't come to jiu-jitsu the next day.
Wow. Yeah, I think that's very astute. Now, I'll say this, for the record, because I think maybe our future
Yeah.
I've never had these. So, the majority of my background is folk style wrestling.
Ooh.
There's no team.
Yeah.
It's against the rules to grab one. And then when I did jiu-jitsu, there's no team plan style. And so there is a tremendous amount of difference based on what you grab or not grab. I'm interested because self-awareness of how he adds that 10% buffer on to what he's aware of knowing and not knowing to keep into that injured person's context with possible zone development.
Yeah.
That order and chaos. Because that's a really, I won't make an assertion, I'll ask a question. I wanted to look at his awareness, intuition for each student where that is.
He rolls with so there's open mat. He's there as far as I can tell at every open mat, and he rolls with every student that's there at open mat. And he tries them, and so we talk. I'm like, so I asked him like yesterday because he's a second degree black belt, and I said, well, all right, help me understand something because I mean it's a little bit different of an art than I'm used to. And so I said, well, what's your next step? He goes, well, I should have already had 2 more stripes. Well, what do you mean? He's like, once you get to the black belt, then it's about, in many ways, it's time and showing what you've done for jujitsu and showing your time with your teacher. And it's mainly like, I mean, he didn't say these words, but I would say it's honorary. So I said, okay, well, then how do you progress? He goes, look, I know what I need to do. So that's why I have all you students. So I just go, okay, I'm going to work on this today. And so some days it may seem like you're passing my guard, like no problem, because I needed you to pass my guard because I needed to work on this. I need to work in being in positions that are uncomfortable. And can I get out? And he's got this one guy, Dr. Howell, who's a phenomenal guy. He's been training in jiu-jitsu for many years, and he's a general practitioner doctor, but he is a PhD. He went back. Actually, he started off as a pharmacist, then went and became a medical doctor, and then went and got his MBA. Like he's very, very nice man. He's insane when it comes to working out. Like this guy is. You want to. If you were to think about some like martial arts instructor, you like put him out there and just like don't put the gi top on and just like the bottoms and put the belt on. He's like, and he's like, I think he's like 60 years old. He just looks like he's like a Greek god looking guy. So nice. reads. I mean, he's very much like us. Reads constantly doing things. He's one of the ones that I want to like chat with about this study that we're going to do, because he's not in this for that. So why would you do jujitsu? I want to know. Like, I honestly want to know. And then he's got a couple other black belts, but he like Corley rolls with these guys, um and it's so funny to me when people and I just hear this in my mind like, oh yeah, I tapped out this blue belt today. Well, that blue belt probably started off at a position that they weren't comfortable with, and yeah, you were able to do it. Great. Yeah. Hey, you know how many times I get to tap out Croyler? Like every lesson. Because he just made sure he's doing it to the level that I'm able to do it. And I think that's a great part with the leader. You don't put your people in a position where it's a huge failure. If they're going to fail, it's a small failure. Just enough to taste defeat. What's that? Yeah. It's a path forward.
That's right. Well said. See, dude, seriously, I think this whole idea.
Of course I am a doctor. Yeah, you should know. You were there. So I mean, so we were going back with some of those things. I mean, I will. When you talk about those setbacks, like, there was a time, and when I knew my topic, and I was very frustrated when I was going mobile, but the university had a particular set of rules. At the time, it was not possible for me to ever have achieved the doctor status, because there was not any research out there at the time that gave me enough resources to even have my proposal. And I thought about it, like, well, I should just stop. And I didn't really talk to anyone about it. I just said, well, I got classwork to finish anyway. So let's just finish the classwork. Let's see what happens. And I'm not going to let some arbitrary rule set dictate my path forward. I don't have enough yet to feel like I have a proposal. But that's when you and I were collaborating, like, well, and so like many people, and I think even so the university still to this day, they focused quite heavily on the mobile aspect of the dissertation rather than the risk-based aspect. So I just started to gravitate towards, this is a risk-based thing. So plenty of literature on risk. Small here. So, but it took me a little while to pivot to that point.
You can take a setback for a setback. I don't actually think that's what is germane to the conversation.
Mhm.
And so I think what you did was take a setback and try to realize exactly what you said is, okay, so what I'm going to do doesn't have X, Y, and Z. But there's these other things that represent X, Y, and Z. And I'll take what I want to do and not represent.
Yeah, this is one of the big things that, because we were in the second cohort, and there was a lot of people that didn't know what the hell they were doing. Fair enough. You know, it's green territory, right? It's all our blue ocean, whatever you want to call it. But yeah, yeah. But one of the things that was very astute with some of our professors, and I will say, like, Audrey was instrumental in this part for me, and she had always said, "You're not trying to cure cancer today, okay? You're just trying to have one blip towards curing cancer. So just that's it. Just this is all you need. That's unique." And that was always something that was very profound to me because many people come off and they want to, well, I'm going to cure cancer. Whoa, that's a pretty big statement. Like, I don't think that's what you want to undertake for your first publication. But many, and I think that's a big reason why many of them fail. Like when you start the whole aspect of your dissertation and anything you want to study is be surgical. Don't don't be a blunt force object. And this is really funny. So many don't know this, but one of my first IT jobs, and I was a bookkeeper slash IT because I knew how to do bookkeeping because of my father, and I took some accounting stuff, but I was more interested in the IT side. And it was for a company called Jailcraft. They built jails and detention centers, and we did a lot of stuff with glass. And so our 14-year-old was like, I don't quite understand it. And he was talking about the Cybertruck, how it was supposed to be like bulletproof, and it like shattered because someone hit it with like a hammer. I'm like, that's not uncommon. What do you mean? Well, glass can be made in many different ways. And so you can make glass that's bulletproof, but not able to handle blunt force object. You can make glass that's able to handle a blunt force object and not bulletproof. You can make glass that's just like a window. You can make glass that's able to handle both. And able to handle both, extremely expensive. So what are you trying to? What's the threat you're trying to distinguish? But I have seen and I know I can make glass that's bulletproof, but I could take a hammer and just bam hit it and it'll shatter, and you can just walk right through. Everything has its own. It's a tool for a specific job. Glass is no different. Everything we do is no different. Even that mustache. Nice. Uh, just looking at our comments. Grandpa's like, "Hey, let's talk tomorrow." I'm like, "Well, you can come on anytime, Grandpa." He is such a fun person. I mean, it's you talk about like we we both know TK. Grandpa was one of the, to me, first like American heroes that I truly got to meet and didn't realize. I mean, yeah, he would wear his like aviator pen. He's in sales in the Department of Defense, calling upon the Navy. Why would you not do that? Like, I get it, but he never talked about any of the stuff that he really did. A couple of things he did, which were public, like flying underneath the Chesapeake Bay Bridge. It's a big no-no. So I'll have to have him tell the story. Um, but he flew, which there's not so this is in Annapolis, Maryland, for those who don't know. There's not a lot of ground clearance between the bridge and the water, and the Naval Academy is right there. And he got caught because some captain on a ship caught his like license plate, whatever they call it, his tags, whatever you want to call those things are at the moment, called it in. And evidently, he did something that was pretty impressive. And so he was like put the break for not the break, but like confined to quarters for a little bit. But it's pretty damn impressive. And so he didn't you know lose his wings or anything, but he did some like crazy things like that. He's a great guy. Anyway, all right, my friend. I think it's about it for tonight. You coming on Sunday? You want to talk to TK, or you got to do some of your virtual racing? I mean, look, you now know a guy at Swift. You might be able to hack it if get some stuff that you don't have to worry about. Yes. Yeah. So his official first day was this past Monday, I think. Yeah. Craig's a very he's a good guy. He's going to come on the show. At least he said he would. I really like the way he thinks. He's he's like 15 years younger than us, but like I mean I dig him. Like when he told me, I'm like, cool. Like you're not going for some lateral movement. Like you're getting after it. I dig it. Yeah, I mean it's Craig's done really good work. I mean, I was very fortunate to have someone like him that got to work for me because he's a thinker. Big time thinker. Like he's out there, and I enjoyed him tremendously. Um, Others at the credit union didn't necessarily like him so much. And I'm like, you just don't understand it. You don't understand it. But part of it was also his personality. I mean, look, he's a millennial. Not there's anything wrong with being a millennial. They think differently. Our job as leaders is to, well, figure out how to make them work towards the greater good. Not everyone wanted to relate. Whose fault is that? I go, as a leader, if you're saying, well, this person, I can't relate to this person, that's your fault. So I just went, like, all right, well, what's important to you? It's not. I say this to everyone. It's not about what I want for you. It's what do you want for yourself, and it's my job to help you get to where you want to be. And then when you outgrow me, so be it. So he uses it as well. Like so that was a big thing for him because he's a when he taught hey because he's only like 35 minutes from you. Yeah, he's a really good guy. He really is. Um, and he moved to North Carolina because his now fiance, I want to say she's at NC State, um, but she's I think a postdoctorate at NC State for some I don't remember, but anyway, great person. Well, we know who wears the pants in that relationship. Oh, did we lose you at the last minute? Anyway, all right, my friends. Hope everyone out there is doing well. It looks like we lost a ninja, but it's about that time anyway. So you all take care. Have a great week. See you Sunday.